Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Student Art Podcast. I'm your host, Ross Baxter, and today is episode 55 of the series. The podcast is a weekly series where I bring on guests from the film and game industries to talk about their journey and thoughts on student education. The Student Art Podcast is sponsored by the Rookies. There's simply no better way to launch your career and start sharing your amazing work online. Throughout their website, you can create your own portfolio, enter lots of contests that take place all year round, and has an incredible community for non-professional digital artists. From hobbyists, students, self-taught artists, to even people wanting to make a career change. The Rookies community brings everyone together, allowing you to be surrounded by people on the same journey as you. So if you want to showcase your portfolio, grow as an artist, and track your progress, sign up to the Rookies today. So, with that said, today we've got an amazing guest. We've got Timothy Dries on the show. Dries, how's it going, man? I hope I pronounced your name right. So sorry.
Good enough. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for doing this, man. This is super cool.
No worries, man.
And once again, before we can get into the fun, juicy bit of the content, everyone who's tuning in, so everyone, make sure to go spam the follow button. Go check out Timothy's work. So all the links will be in the description below. You've got your ArtStation, you've got Twitter. Is there anything else you kind of like? I know you've got your blog. Is there anything else that comes to mind?
No, that should be fine. Like ArtStation and Twitter is all they need.
Perfect. So you guys know what to do. Go spam it. Go share the love, and make sure to go and appreciate the guy's work because he makes some really amazing work. And as the conversation continues, there's going to be lots of great questions we can discuss. So with that said, man, as always, we kind of just start off with introductions. So tell us a wee bit about yourself, what you do, and what got you into art.
Oh, nice. So I'm Timothy Dries. I've been in the industry for 4 to 5 years now, and it started out with like in middle age school. Like I went to an art school, but I didn't really know what to do yet. So at the end of that, it was sort of like an exploration into the different avenues I could take. And we went to this university because it was just like an exploration of like, okay, what are the future possibilities? Mm-hmm. With the thought that I would become a concept artist, because I used to love drawing and I had like my sketchbooks with me and like all my drawings. And I went into that school with the thought of still becoming a concept artist, but in the first year I got in contact with like 3D, and it just blew me away, like the possibilities that you could get out of the software and like how you could construct your own worlds and all that stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where it kind of took off, and I kind of started focusing more on like 3D, and then from there on I started focusing on environment art because I just love creating like my own scenes, my own world, so to say. Yeah. And yeah.
No, like, that's awesome because like I remember when you said in Ryan's podcast as well, it's like drawing runs in your family. Am I correct? It's There's quite a lot of artist people in your family.
Yeah, exactly. Like my grandfather was big into drawing and painting, and he never taught me it, but I always saw his work on the walls and all that stuff. So it like inspired me to do better. And I always had my sketchbook with me. I was always drawing. Like whenever I was playing games, like I remember these things when I was just drawing the still frames from like video games that I was playing, and just sitting there for hours and hours on end, just like trying to sketch like scenes from like Revolt or something.
No, that's the best bit. That's the bit. It's like that's you just like geeking out and drawing what obviously your main passion and stuff. And like that's the thing I've missed, and like that's why I want to hear like so many people trying to get more involved in. It's just like the loose sketches and just the sheer sake of having fun, if you know what I mean. Because it's like obviously we all have our passions and stuff, but a lot of us kind of get sidetracked or we forget to go back to our roots at times. And like obviously environment art, like we both love environment art. And like speaking of environment art, like why environment art? Like obviously you said like you love 3D and stuff, but was there a reason to go down environment art? Like did anything kind of like, was there a particular artist or something?
No particular artist, but I always had this feeling that I was more interested in environment art than characters, because even when I wasn't in 3D already, I was going on vacations and I was taking lots and lots of pictures, but I was always trying to get the pictures without the people in them. because I was more interested in like the cultural background of the buildings and the places themselves than the people walking around in them.
Awesome. Yeah, it's like that's the main thing. It's like the whole concept of story, and trying to get I guess understanding of landscapes, going into the culture of things, realizing how can I make this image be meaningful and have something behind it instead of just being just a landscape and actually having a purpose. And like that's the great thing as well. Like by the way, everyone who's tuning in, Timothy does this really amazing blog, and make sure to check it out on ArtStation. So go to his blog section. So it's pretty much every week you kind of update it, isn't it?
Yeah, every week on Thursday.
And like this is the interesting thing. So I went way back. So I only got to your blog like relatively recently, and I came across. So I went all the way down to the bottom to your first post because I was like, why did he start a blog? I wanted to get the ins and outs of it. And the reason why you did the blog was actually a perfect. Like I was so happy you said it because on my live stream, literally just yesterday, a bunch of people kept spamming me like the same question when it was basically like how to kind of get motivated or how to kind of find your way in a way or like try and keep consistent. And like it'd be great to kind of hear about your blog and like kind of talk to like why you did it, etc. And it'd be just fire away. It'd be awesome to hear.
Yeah, like you said, like it was an experiment in trying to self-manage myself, like trying to put extra pressure on myself so that I needed to keep the output consistent. I was already doing that on Polycount before I was doing it on the blog, but on Polycount it was more forgiving. So you could say like, oh, I'll don't do it on like a weekly basis, and I'll just post an update whenever I have one. And that tended to be like the spaces between the updates tended to become longer and longer. And I started noticing that.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, okay, I need to just focus up, cut down on all the space in between and try to make it like a weekly thing. And that's where the blog started.
Was so one of the common things I see so many students struggle with is obviously like one of the main points you said there is like the concept of being consistent and obviously making sure that what you're doing is obviously something that you're passionate about. And like I understand there's so many students out there, they're trying to figure out maybe what kind of path they want to do, whether it's environment art and concept art. And obviously the way you found to kind of get that motivation going was using a blog. So everyone who's tuning in, there's so many ways to kind of find motivation and to kind of help you kind of find your footing in a way. So maybe start a blog. There's a few artists. One of my friends, Ash, she listens to the podcast, and she literally just started a blog, and that's helped her out so much. So maybe give it a go and try it out. You never know what to expect.
Yeah, I think the most important thing about that is the blog might not work for you, but something else might. So it's like finding your own way in how to manage your time. Because some people do it with like listening to some kind of music or just isolating themselves from other people and just saying like, okay, like this one day in the week, I'll just not do anything except art. And then the rest of the week, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Or do it in like a daily basis where it's like, okay, I'll do half an hour a day, but then the other chunks are just free. So it's obviously like trying stuff and then seeing if that works and then like expanding on that element if it works.
Definitely. No, I completely agree. And then this is the section that I think is really cool because it's like this is something that's so obvious. So the weekly inspiration section. So you do so obviously you find your art that you're like, right, what's inspired me and why does it inspire me and stuff. And like this is the thing, like I'm not sure if it's just because I've kind of got so attached to certain work, but I need to kind of branch out more and kind of like just maybe try something different. Like that's the really cool thing about your portfolio is like you've literally have like every possible style going on. I'm like, this guy's doing foliage, this guy's doing hard surface, this guy's doing everything, and like, it's really cool to see. And I think like that's one of the main steps of trying to get people out of their comfort zone. And like when you're doing like your weekly inspiration, it's like you kind of see what like the different kind of variations of art that you like, basically.
Yeah, it's also I come from the same place that you come from, where it's like I felt stuck by always looking at the same things. And then the weekly inspiration was sort of my way of branching out, which is like, okay, like I know that I have to do it every week. So like every week I'm looking for different pieces of art that interest me. I'll just look on ArtStation and click on the first thing that pops up,
Yeah.
and like have an in-depth look at it, and then see what the elements are that inspire me, and then I'll just put that in a backlog of like inspirational pieces for my blog.
Amazing. Wow. Because like once again, like everyone is tuning in. It's literally, this blog doesn't only just cover obviously just his journey, but it covers content in regards to like tutorials, learning, etc. You name it, it covers everything. And this is a source for everyone to utilize and make the most of. So I highly recommend all of you to check the link in the description, make the most of it, and share it about, because this is an amazing source to utilize. So the next thing I kind of wanted to talk to you about, and it's kind of like the main principle of the podcast, which is obviously the student education side of things.
Yeah.
So obviously.
Oh, actually.
Yeah, far away. And you go.
Actually, before we dive into that, I just wanna add one thing to the weekly inspiration.
Perfect.
Which is, there's a hidden side of it too, where
Ooh,
I
right,
always message the artist personally and thank them for being an inspiration, and it gets me into contact with those people too. And I don't think a lot of people realize that, but like I've had small conversations with people that are really like on top of the normal inspiration that they give with like their artwork. It's just like the little tidbits that you get out of those conversations are like just the cherry on top. It's super nice.
Like, well, that's the thing as well. It's like the fact that you've like reached out to them, and like I've never really been like, I understand that everyone has their different kind of ways of reaching out to people, but like I'm one of those people that just like, I'm like, right, this person's made some really cool artwork, I need to talk to them. find a way to reach out to them. I don't know, message them on LinkedIn, you name it, whatever it is, as long as I can just find a way to maybe get a question answered. Like, I'm aware that obviously you have to kind of approach it in a very respectful manner, and you have to realize that people have like their own lives, etc. and that, but like, for example, you doing that, like that's helped kind of open doors as in open discussions and relationships. And like that's one of the main things why we all do art in the first place, is the fact that at the end of the day we can all connect together and share knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also, you got to remember that they're still just people.
Yeah.
Like they're in this for the same passion as you're in the business. Like they love talking about that stuff.
Yeah.
So as you said, like if you keep it respectful and you just reach out, like there's a high chance that they just will react to your message.
Definitely. Because like one thing I've always kind of like, you nailed it perfectly there, is like they're just people in the day. Like I get it, people have skill set, they have quality and so forth, and maybe have many years of experience, but at the end of the day, like you said, they're just human beings. It's like we're not surrounded by constant celebrities. It's like you just have to realize that like you never know, they might help you, and sometimes it just takes that wee bit of confidence just to be like for example, me reaching out to you to come on the podcast, I was like obviously approach it in a way as in like show respect to your art and everything that you've done, and it's just down to how you approach it.
Yeah. So I appreciate it, man.
No, it's okay. I'm so happy to have you on. It's just it's so always awesome reaching out to different artists, different backgrounds, and hearing their story. So speaking of story, obviously student education, so studying in, right, so if I get this, I do apologise once again if I get this wrong. So I assume it's just, is it Hodges School, West Fladeren? how far away?
Okay, that was not even close. But...
Oh gosh, darn it! Oh well.
West Vlaanderen, but obviously it's a Dutch pronunciation. So
yeah, say it one more time.
Hoest,
right,
in West Vlaanderen.
Yep, I was a bit off. That's hilarious. Oh well, I'm putting that right at the start. I'm just gonna put like a funny clip of me trying to attempt that, because that's
just gonna cut this section out.
Yep. Nobody knows about this on the podcast now. That's amazing. So like, what was your education like? Just how was your studying?
It was super intense.
Okay.
Like I'm not even kidding about that. Like the first year, it was just like everything gets dropped on your lap, and it's just like, oh, you need to figure it out, because we have so many people trying to get into games that we don't have the time to just dedicate this time to you specifically. Just to give like a short overview, in the first year you had to learn C++, you had to do concept art or like just drawing and get to that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was like 3D. So it was like everything just in one big clump was just like, here you go. Like you need to see how you split your time and how you deal with it, but we expect you to at least finalize like half of the classes like at the end of the year. But it was super intense, especially with C++ and like mathematics and physics that are attached to it. Where if you don't have the backgrounds in mathematics,
Mm-hmm.
like as I do, then it's just the first lesson in mathematics was just like, okay, I'm already lost. Like, how am I going to survive this for an entire year?
Yeah.
I have no idea. But it was just being persistent and like trying to find a balance between all the different courses.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I still remember like, oh, in the first 6 months you have to program like a small game in C++, and then at the end of the year you have to program a physics game in C++.
Okay.
And it's like, what? I can't even understand like C++. Like, how am I going to start doing this?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the thing as well. It's like I was even aware. So basically, you're saying so part of your game course you had to do that as well.
Yeah.
Wow, right? Okay, I've like that's kind of similar to the like that because that never happens in like UK courses as well. I'm not aware of it anyway. In regards to like the game side of things, we always just focus on well the majority. I assume based off everyone I've talked to, it's always just right. You've got your game course to do. Obviously, if you have to do like the C++ stuff, then I completely get that. I think there is an element to that in the game. So we have one called what's it called? Game dev course. I think it's just game dev, and then it's like we have another course called computer arts. So that was the one I did. But
Oh, okay.
it's always interesting how like certain like depending on where you live like approach things very differently. But that's always like the main reason why I bring on the range of guests. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, like especially in our school, like that was an overview of like the first year, and then in the second year you kind of specialize into what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I went into like game graphics. So which is more catered towards like just making 3D, but there was also still like animation and scripting was embedded in that as well.
Yeah. So, what would you say if you had to kind of, well, actually, I'll ask you this one first. So, in general, would you say in Belgium there's like a good education? Like, what's your thoughts on, like, what do you know about education in Belgium? Is it overall it's pretty good?
Mm. I have this very specific view of this one school,
Mm-hmm.
and as far as I'm aware, like it's been up and downs in the recent years, but I would still recommend people to go there.
Okay. Perfect.
Um, but it's interesting in a way because I went back recently for like a student internship fair
Mm-hmm.
to see if there were like possible candidates for Ubisoft, which was pretty interesting.
Awesome.
And then you could already see the difference from like my year because when we did there was this course called what was it? Like it was building a level environment basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to do that all by hand, like no asset packages or anything. And now they're doing that with asset packages
Oh
to
gosh.
just scale down on the time that they need to spend on it.
Yeah, of course.
So it's already like, oh, this is looking cool. But then there's obviously like, oh, you did it with an asset package. So I was already assuming that they made it by hand and it looked amazing.
Yeah.
But then there's like they start explaining about it, and then yeah, this is all asset packages. So it's just like compositing, and the building is still there, but you're not going through like the whole pipeline yourself.
Mm-hmm. Like that's always the interesting thing. It's like obviously it's like we have to all adapt to how things are like evolving, etc. There was actually a really interesting. I'm pretty sure it was Tim Simpson that posted it, and he posted this. It was like an image done. I'm pretty sure it was a second or third year. I might be completely wrong. Of a 4-year course, and when I saw it, I was like, wow, they're doing that in their second year. I was like, it was literally like industry standard after only like a year or so of work. And then I saw everything that the student was learning. Like I'm pretty sure she like learned everything. It was like Substance Painter, Substance Designer, ZBrush, like compositing, Houdini. There was like literally everything in that description of that one ArtStation post.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, that's awesome. It was great to hear, but I've never seen someone like learn all that like so like early on and then now. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, the schools are trying to keep up with like the courses
Mm-hmm.
or like the industry itself, right?
Yeah.
Because the other interesting thing when I went back to my school basically was that they now have Houdini courses,
Okay. Wow. Nice.
and it's just like, damn, that's really useful
Yeah.
because like the stuff that we're doing in the industry now with like Houdini and like the procedural workflows, it's I mean it's such a critical part of your skill set that
Mm-hmm.
it's really useful if you have that knowledge.
Like that's the thing, because so I've still not dived into Houdini. Like I need to kind of learn, like what is Houdini? I've talked to a few people about it, but I've not really kind of researched into that much.
Mm. Well, me neither, to be honest. But there's a couple of artists that I work with that are really getting to grips with Houdini or already at a certain level with Houdini. And
Okay.
just like the stuff that you can do with Houdini is just it feels limitless.
Yeah.
Like if you know what I mean. Like you obviously you need to learn some scripting and some programming if you want to get your really specifics in there.
Okay.
But just just the stuff that they're doing is crazy.
Just
Like
insane stuff.
yeah, yeah.
No, that's awesome. So like obviously carrying on with so one of the main questions I like to ask when it comes to student education, is what do you wish you learned when you were studying at university? Is there anything that, like obviously we've kind of touched on this in a way, but is there anything else that you think, in terms of maybe if it related to your job, that you think would have been a lot more beneficial if you learned it back then to help you now?
Mm, yeah. I would say environmental storytelling
Okay. Oh, nice. Right. Loving it. Right.
because
Awesome.
everyone that was focusing on environments was making really good looking environments
Mhm.
and showing off that they could do the entire pipeline, but then they were never taking it to the next step.
Okay.
Like taking a story and building it into the scene itself and really like focusing on the composition of it, yeah, like using lighting to draw attention to certain aspects. It was more like, look, this is what I can do, like technically, and
Mhm.
that's it.
Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. It's so many people, like you nailed it perfectly. It's literally kind of gone into that loop of prioritizing like the software and the quality rather
Hmm.
than actually like the reason why we do art in the first place.
Yeah.
And like that's the thing. It's like you do art because you want to tell a story, or you want to create something cool and stuff. And I think it's like that personal attachment slowly. Like you may disagree, but do you think it's kind of slowly faded away? Not completely, but people are kind of like how can I say it? Not focusing on it that much.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, it's not, I don't think it's fading away, but it's, you're so focused on like getting all the technical aspects down from every different program that you're using to get this environment up to standards
Hmm.
that you don't really have the time to think about this additional thing while you're learning like Substance Painter, Substance Designer, like Unreal Engine, like you're learning so many things. And then the environmental storytelling aspect almost feels like a secondary thing to it.
Yeah, like
So I'm just thinking that if you're a student and you're already worried about so many things that you don't really have the time to worry about that one additional thing for the grades that they score you on in school.
yeah, like that's the thing as well. Because I don't know where it came from, or was it just because things were like, because of how fast the industry's growing, people are always like, right, I need to catch up, I need to catch up.
Hmm.
And I've always wondered, like, where's this kind of pressure coming from? Is the pressure coming from the way they're teaching in education? So basically what I'm saying is that, is education like prioritizing the software because obviously people keep telling them that they're not up to date with industry standards, therefore they're obviously like they're falling behind of like the main reason why we do art in the first place. Like it's so hard for like people to find the balance,
Hmm.
because obviously one always goes against the other, or they try and, I wouldn't say go against the other. Obviously, like, the reason why I do the podcast is simply trying to just get answers, basically. But it's it's an interesting one, because story at the end of the day, it's the most important. It's the fun bit. It's the thing that you kind of get creative with,
Hmm.
and
Yeah, yeah,
like
I fully agree.
yeah,
But it's I'm just thinking back on the days that I was in school
hmm,
and I was already losing sleep like 95% of the time anyway. So if I had to spend that time on environmental storytelling, yeah, I wouldn't know where to find the time basically.
yeah,
But it's also because no one really pushed us to do it anyway.
right. It's so surprising. like speaking of like story time and giving things a great story in your art, like what would you say to the people who are listening? What makes a good story in your eyes?
What makes a good story?
Yeah, for your
That's
environments.
that's an interesting one because that question is so broad.
Yeah, so sorry for putting you on
Uh,
the spot.
no, it's fine. It's fine. I think a good story needs to have at least the element that you can clearly tell it straight away. So
Okay.
like, okay, the story in this scene is about this. But then I always feel like there needs to be like secondary details. Like if you have this person staring at your art piece for like longer, that they can say like, hey, there's like a little thing here that's tying into this story. Like maybe something else happened, or maybe there's something different that happened instead of like this main story that I thought would happen.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, like the main thing is always focusing on that one aspect and telling that really clear story, so that if someone looks at your art, they can see like, oh, this is like the last stand of people trying to survive from like, I don't know, zombies coming in or whatever,
Yeah.
something really stereotypical. But
It's a perfect example. We're rolling with it. We're rolling with it. So can't go wrong with zombies. So like when it comes to like just environment art in general, is there kind of like common questions that you like to ask yourselves before you kind of make a piece, or do you kind of just go with the flow and explore as you're going along?
yeah, I always used to start from just like, um, what kind of software do I want to learn, or like what kind of thing am I not good at enough?
Okay.
Like for instance, the latest piece that I'm working on is more like a mid poly workflow because I never did that myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I always had like the really low poly for like Planet Coaster and all that stuff, or the more stereotypical like high to low poly like pipeline.
Yep.
But with this one, it's more like how can I use decals? And I know all the theoretics behind it, but I never applied it in like a scene for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I always start from like either that and trying to nail it down from like, okay, I want to learn this specific thing, or I start from like a really cool story that I want to tell.
Nice.
And that was sort of the mix with my latest piece that I'm still working on.
Mm-hmm.
It's taking me ages, by the way, but
No, that's all right. At the end of the day, you want to do it the right way. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. And I got over this hurdle of like, oh, I wanna churn it out quick and move on to the next thing. Like I'm taking my time because I'm doing other stuff too.
Yeah.
So
No, but that's the awesome thing because it's like when it comes to art, it's like the craving of knowledge. It's like you see something cool and you just wait, how on earth did they do that? And you're just like trying to figure out, wait, how did they do this? Did they use this tool? Did they use that tool? And then you figure out they actually did it something so simple, and you're like, how dare you? It was like they made it look so easy.
yeah.
But that's the beauty in it, and it's like when it comes to like obviously like the way you think, you can tell that you love to like explore things and like try things out. Like I like to explore things, but I'm kind of how do I say it? So I always I don't really think software. So I'm kind of like the opposite when you were saying like, so obviously you were thinking like the software and the tool side of things. Like obviously you have your passion for like the creative side of things as well, but I've always kind of been like, right, what kind of art do I want to make today? And I like I know the tools that I know already, and I'm like, well, I know how to make it, so I'm just going to like obviously make the concept that I want to make, and it's purely based on just like the type of art. Like that's how I always work, basically.
So it's more about like the execution of it.
Yeah, it's not really about. So this is like where obviously like the debate comes into play, because obviously, I do art for the sake of just making art that I want to make. But it's okay for me to say that because obviously I've got a job. So
Oh yeah, definitely.
but when obviously if you don't have a job, then that's obviously when you have to take both aspects into account and appreciate them both as equally.
Yeah. Yeah, I think your focus can shift once you get inside of a company.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, like I've got my spare time and I don't need to worry about like getting my portfolio up to standards or like keeping up with the latest things. Like you can be more exploratory because you're already working like 8 hours a day on like a more traditional pipeline anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like some people still feel the need to just churn out piece after piece, which is totally fine, by the way, as long as they get some creative fulfillment out of it.
Of
I think
course.
that's the most important thing.
Oh, you nailed it perfectly. Because when it comes to art, it's like I don't know. Like the one thing I always like to kind of prioritize is that people are doing art that they want to make rather than prioritizing the studio. If you know what I mean. Um,
Mm,
and
yeah.
I can understand that obviously we all need to survive, we all need to live and stuff, and we all have our daily routines and that. But I always like to make aware that just don't lose sidetrack of the thing that you enjoy the most, which is like your own type of art that you want to make.
Yeah.
Because
And that's a tricky one to find out.
yeah,
That took me like a long while to just get to a place where I'm like, oh, I think I know what to do.
mm-hmm.
Because I always tend to focus more on like the natural aspects than just like hard surface aspects.
Okay,
Um, and I think most people, especially if you're a student, you're like fresh out of school, then it's like, oh, the wide world is there. Like, what chunk are you gonna take from it?
yeah. So like when it comes to like Timothy, what's your go-to kind of if you could do any art non-stop for the rest of your life? Like what's your kind of thing that kind of describes your like what's your main passion when it comes to making art? I know it's a hard one. That's another hard question because
It is. But it's a fair one though. Like, I've been thinking about that stuff myself for
mm-hmm.
like a long time,
Yeah,
and I feel like I'm getting closer to it,
cool.
but I'm not really there yet. So
Yeah.
I know that I have an interest in like natural stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I want to do something that has some sort of meaning, that people look at it and say like, "Oh, damn. Maybe I should change this tiny thing." It could be political or like how we treat the environment or something.
Yep.
Like something that has more weight to it than just being like a pretty scene that tells a story that's just like detached from all the rest. I like to have it grounded in reality.
Nice.
So that's slowly where I'm going closer and closer to.
Yeah, because like I think it's we as artists, we all kind of like you might disagree with this point, but I always feel like everyone kind of has something in the back of their head as like the world that they maybe want to make or something that they want to create.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been I said it in one of my last podcasts, so I've been working on a book for about 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
and like that's just been my focus. And obviously I have my job and stuff, but it's like I've just got so many things in my mind. Like I need to make this, I need to make that, and it's always nice seeing and hearing what people's kind of different take on their stories because everyone kind of approaches things like we all do. We all approach things differently, and it's always great to hear their perspective.
Yeah, that's where it gets tricky if you want to give advice to people looking for their own way of working.
Yeah.
Like you can't just say like, "Oh, do a blog."
Mm-hmm.
It's more like try a blog and see if that works for you.
Of
And if
course.
it doesn't, I mean, there's always the balance of like, "Oh, I tried it 1 week and it didn't work." It's like, no, it doesn't really work like that. You have to try it for a while and then see if it objectively helps you to push your goals forward.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that point on, you can see like, okay, maybe after 6 weeks or something, like in a certain amount of time, if it's not helping you, or if it's causing way too much stress and putting just too much on your shoulders, then it might be time to look for something else.
Yeah, because like that's the thing. It's like you mentioned like also on your blog as well when it comes to like finding like the thing that you want to do. Like obviously sometimes we have uncertainties, or sometimes like we doubt ourselves, and we maybe like go through the mode in which we're like am I good enough?
Yeah.
Like am I going to get where I want to go? I've tried many ways, and you made this amazing point. Like you were talking about obviously trying to find that job and trying to get your path like on track basically. And like is there any advice when it comes to kind of keeping your motivation? Like what's kind of helped you? Like, obviously I know the blogs one of those ways that helps you. Is there any other way that's kind of helped you over the years?
It's a bunch of tiny things that help me. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's getting away from this notion that everything that you consume, if you want to say it,
Yeah.
if you want to say it like that, can help you. Like even music, like you can feel when music puts you in a certain mood, and I try to be wary of that stuff. And then when the next time I'm listening to that certain mood, to that certain music, and it puts me in a different mood, then I'll try to figure out what changed.
Mm-hmm.
So then if I feel like you said, like if I feel like in an artist dip, then I'm not going to listen to some heavy metal or something, because it's either going to push me down or like just make it worse, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's obviously like a really simplified example, but there are tricks when I'm like, okay, I know that I have been through a lot of pressure this week. I'm gonna listen to some rainy tavern music from Skyrim, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, good choice.
and then it's like you have to find these ups and downs to like cleanse your mental state in a way.
Yeah.
That's also why I don't have internet on my phone, so that when I'm commuting back and forth, like to work and home, that I'm not constantly looking at Twitter or Facebook or something. I'm just giving myself the time to just relax or read a book or listen to some music. But I'm not constantly trying to consume everything.
I'm so happy you've just mentioned two amazing points that I'm so excited about. Right. So you said there about, so this is the same with me. I'm not really a big fan of phones.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I've never really been a big fan of phones because I don't know, it's like, for example, you see all the people on the bus. So say I'm on the bus on the way back, literally everyone on the bus is on their phone, and I'm just sitting there like, just explore your mind, think something, just do something different. Observe how people are like going past, like that's the great thing about living in the city, is like you see like all like you're just sitting still on a bus and everyone's
There's
like
so
panicking.
much to see.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much things going on, and it's just like, I think so many people get so sidetracked with social media that they forget the fact that it's like there was a time when there was no such thing as internet, and like that's one thing I'd be like, it's actually one thing I'm going to talk about. Actually, we can talk about it now. It'd be great to talk about.
Oh yeah, man.
Like for example, when it comes to like the internet in general, like so I had no internet for like 2 to 3 months. Because I was messaging you, I was like, I'm so sorry I haven't been able to get in touch with you, Timothy. I was like, I couldn't even message you at one point as well. I was like, I don't even know how to respond because I had no internet. I was like, oh gosh, I can't message anyone. And by gosh, did this give me a wake up call, because I was like, you know what? I'm exploring the city. I'm going outside more. I'm doing certain things, and it was so nice. It was just such a nice refresher.
It's so silly, but you see it in a totally different way.
Yeah.
Like if you go to a city that you've never been to before,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to find your way without Google Maps.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Like that's something that I enjoy. Like I'm looking for maps on bus stations, or like asking some people, like some locals in well, if I can talk the language, like my really broken version of it, or just in English.
Yeah.
But it's like I like the exploration, and especially like if you're talking about phones, like you're just looking down on the screen, there's something that's missing from that. Like even if you're looking to, like I'm from Berlin, like if you're looking at pictures from Berlin, like there's something missing. Like you can't get the feeling that you have like when you're actually running through the place.
Yeah.
And you're just looking at all the nice buildings and like all the stuff happening. It's amazing.
Like I don't know, it's just like that's the thing that probably this generation or my generation has kind of well, I've kind of felt like I've saw it a lot in people's artwork, is that they've lost that kind of proper kind of connection with their work, or like or maybe they've not lost the connection, but they've kind of failed to appreciate just the concept of art and how our surrounding has such a big impact on it.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, it'd be just great to see, like, for example, people going outside more. Like, when it comes to, like, modules in class, people actually doing things rather than being on a computer all the time. Yeah,
it's kind of weird coming from us, but...
it's okay. This podcast it's designed to help people, so we can say whatever we want. This is my podcast. This is my rules. Right, so... when it comes to the podcast, so the one thing I like to kind of, before we get into 500 seconds, I know everyone's looking forward to that. It's the fun part of the podcast. I know, be ready, my friend. You're going to get bombarded with questions. So the one question I like to ask before I do that is, what's your thoughts on online and like kind of like the comparison between that and education in terms of university, etc. Like what's your kind of verdict? Do you think... Obviously, like we need both. Like they're both great. and they both have their kind of their ups and downs and stuff. But like maybe like if you had to make a choice, like would you go for one or would you just stick with both?
That's a really interesting one because I've only had experience with one of them. Like I've never done any online course at all.
Right, awesome.
Like it's only well the only online courses that I do are just YouTube, but those are just like little tidbits of information that I need. It's like, oh, I don't know how this works, and then I'll just quickly Google that and skip to the part what I need, and then just close it down again. But I would say that it's more and more easy to just do everything online, especially in our situation. Like if
Yeah,
you want to become an environment artist, like I mean, there's so many good courses and so many good mentors out there now that I don't see a reason why that shouldn't work.
yeah,
I've been on the other side of the spectrum though, where I was mentoring other people for a couple of months, and one of them is currently working in our studio. So
awesome.
I mean, there's a feeling of fulfillment, just like proud of yeah of accomplishment. It's like
Of course, yeah.
she has been working really hard for like a year on end. Like she's been saving up for a while and then just stopped working to focus on getting into environment art for a year.
hmm
And then she did a mentorship with me the last couple of months, and it was such an amazing experience.
Yeah, it's
So
it's that
so
rewarding feeling.
yeah, exactly. So I was just getting started in the mentorship. So as a mentor myself, so there's so many people that have so many more years of experience that are way better at doing this than myself, that I don't see a reason why you should go to university.
hmm
But that being said, there's always this caveat, right? Where a lot of people say that people go to university for socializing with other people
hmm
that are into the same thing. But I was never a person that socialized in school.
hmm
So that experience from my end was super limited, which is always kind of weird. Like I was surrounded by all the people that had the same passion,
Yeah, oh, I completely see where you're coming from.
but then it was kind of overwhelming because there was so much to do. So it was
Yeah,
like, okay, I got my courses, I'm going home, and I need to work like another 8 hours until I go to sleep. So there
hmm
was like no time to just like chill out and talk to people. I was always in this working mindset.
yeah. It's oh, I'm the exact same, and it's I've realised that so many people have come on the podcast were the exact same as well, and
Mm,
it's the whole concept of I guess getting the right balance of like obviously how to approach your work. Like obviously we all have to like the social aspect of uni is amazing and it's great and it's really important.
hmm
It comes to that whole concept of working in a team and so forth. And but the main kind of thing that's actually the main value in this point here is like it then relates to you just like your personal like life, etc.
hmm
And like for example anxiety, social interaction, etc. Learning how to talk to people,
Yeah.
and like for me, for example, like anxiety was a big thing for me because I was too busy focusing on working so hard that I forgot how to even like I got into this really weird state in which it's kind of similar to what you said there about being surrounded by a lot of people. It was kind of like different. So when I was
hmm
in uni in third and fourth year, I got to a state in which I was like, "Gosh, there's people surrounding me. I don't feel right." And
Yeah.
I was like, "What do I do?" I was like, "I'm going back home to get back on with work." And but that's the upsides like we're discussing.
Yeah, I think you also, like you said, like you build up this personal space. Like when you're always working on stuff at
hmm
home, it's like you build up this own comfort zone.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, why should I come in to school like nicely dressed up when I can just sit in my pajamas at home
hmm
and do the same kind of thing? Like I think if you go to school and the school is really intense and you have like this balance of like, oh, you go to school for like 7 to 8 hours, but then they kind of expect you to do that same kind of work at home too,
hmm
then you start to build this shift where it's like why should I go to school and like travel there and do the commute when I can just do the same stuff that I'm doing at home?
Yeah. Because like that's the thing is like it's what it's the main it's literally the main reason why I do the podcast, and it's trying to open up the fact that there's so many different ways for you to approach your career in terms of learning, whether you go into the mentoring way, where you go through maybe online courses, I don't know, such as Gnomon, etc. Gnomon's obviously a school as well, but or you go down the university route, which is the common one. And like that's the thing is like I think it depends. It's kind of hard for anyone to kind of say like do this, do that, but I'm not sure like obviously you're saying like through your mentoring like teaching the girl, etc., and like it went a long way, that like maybe mentoring's the thing for you. Like if mentoring, if you think that you just want that one-to-one interaction with a mentor, then give it a go and see what options are available, because you never know. Like if maybe you're older as well, maybe you're not like your typical just coming straight out of secondary school, like 16 to 18, and you're just wanting information. Mentorship's probably the best way.
Yeah, that was a situation that I had where it was not a person coming straight out of school, but it was like trying to make the transition at an older age, which is always more difficult because, I mean, the industry is moving so fast. There's so much to learn. Like trying to keep up is hard enough, like when you're young, but then as you get older, there's other priorities. Like, I mean, it's normal. Like you shift your priorities more towards just, I don't know, living instead of just working all the time. But
yeah, like people have family and they might have kids. You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like all these things add up, and like that's the thing is like you just have to give it the time that it deserves. Take the time and realize like that's the thing. There's no rush to having to like, go into a course, and I think people forget that like age literally doesn't mean anything, unless obviously. Like we just said there, like if you have your family and that, like take the time that it requires, and appreciate the fact that you've got the time. Unless you're like 100 or 90 or whatever, then maybe you don't have the time. But you get the point I'm trying to say.
I guess it's time to retire then.
Yeah, it's probably it's probably time to retire. Well, in saying that, a lot of my favorite how can I say it? Well, then again, 70s to me isn't old, but it's like my like idols, like I'm very how can I say it, movie orientated, so like I literally know pretty much so much about Steven Spielberg and like Scorsese and that. I'm just like reading into them all the time. It's like I'm sure what's it called, Spielberg is not aged a bit. Like he's just like he literally is like a 5-year-old. And it's amazing. It's so awesome.
Yeah, he's just enjoying his craft, man.
Yeah, and that's the brilliant thing about it. Right, so
yeah, but obviously like it kind of feels like a cop-out every time that people talk about this, because I tend to always say like this is highly personal, because like we can talk about this and say people draw conclusions out of this conversation and they say like, oh, mentoring should be the thing for me then, but it might totally not work for them,
of course.
So it's always seeing like what could work for you. Like you could try mentoring and you could try an online course, because some people, they're really good with self-management from the get-go, and they can do online courses and keep nailing the balance between it. But then some people just need that one-on-one face-to-face interaction where it's like, oh no, I didn't do my quote-unquote homework this week. And there's this stress attached to it where it's like, oh, I'm not going to do that next time, because then the teacher that I'm going to personally is going to give me some flack for it.
Yeah. Like, oh, that's a perfect way to summarize it, because at the end of the day, it's like, at the end of the day, you have to make the choice. And it's, sometimes it is hard to accept that you're going to have to make a decision. But the main thing is you have to realize is that it's okay if it doesn't work out. Like, there's nothing wrong if it doesn't work out. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Then you just simply go, right, what's the next step? How do I get to the next step? And you take it from there.
Yep. Yeah, it's your life. You need to see what fits best for you.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like I've never, like I know I've had so many, like I've had a lot of guests on the podcast, but we've never really said it that way. So that was really nice to say it that way, because that's the right way to say it. So thank you so much for saying that, man. That means a lot.
Oh, no worries, man.
So before we get into well, I'm just going to open it up. Is there anything that you wish? Well, is there anything you want to say? It's kind of like open the doors, etc. Is there anything else that you kind of want to bring up before we get to 500 seconds? Or is it all good? And are you ready for bombardment?
No, I think it's all good, man.
Awesome.
Bring the questions.
Right. Okay. This is the fun bit. This is where everything gets exciting.
Okay.
Right. So we have 500 seconds, and then you can pass at any time. So there's no pressure. If you feel like you don't want to answer the question, you just say no or whatever. But then again, the questions are kind of, I wouldn't say they're easy, but they're just fun questions.
Yep.
Right. So we'll probably start with the hard question first.
Oh, great.
Favorite game and why?
Fallout 4.
Oh, right. Okay, that was easy.
Yeah, Fallout 4 because it has so many environmental storytelling options to explore. Like, it's such a rich world.
Yeah. Perfect. I did not expect you to, it's normally the one that ever takes ages on.
No, actually, that's one of the easier ones, probably.
Oh, right, okay. Is this a hard one? Favorite film?
Oh, God. Well, Pacific Rim.
Oh, damn it, you already said it, yeah. Damn it, I forgot already. So, before I do...
Only the first one, though.
Only the first one. Because, like, literally at the start of every podcast, just to test the audio, I always ask the guests what's their favourite film, and I completely forgot.
Yeah, I got a teaser for that question.
Yeah, it was like, damn it, he's like lured me in, he's trapped me.
No, I think you're just sharing the questions with us.
Yep. Gosh darn it. Right. Right. This is another favorite one. Favorite food.
Pasta with spinach.
Okay. Okay.
And God damn it, what's it called? It's like some kind of meat. I can't come up with the correct name of it, but
that's okay. We'll roll with it. It's perfect.
With some kind of meat, yeah. It doesn't sound shady at all.
Because mine's always been steak. Like you can't get good enough. You can't get I think you can't get better than steak. Sorry, but you can't. It's just in my head. It's just like steak with a nice sauce.
But what kind of steak though?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe like a rump steak or a sirloin steak. With like my favorite thing is like there's onion sauce. We get it in the UK. I assume you get it everywhere else, but it's like onion sauce with some maybe onion rings and some steak. Oh, perfect.
Oh man, I had Wagyu beef steak once.
A what steak? Sorry, that sounded good.
A Wagyu beef.
Oh gosh, right.
Like those super fancy cows that get massages and all that stuff. I don't know if that's true, but
wait, that's a thing.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. Right?
I need to send you a link.
Wait, is this happening only in Belgium and Germany? Is this a thing?
No, it gets exported to like select restaurants like all over the world, but it's super expensive.
Right.
But I had it once, and I mean, if you like steak, you need to give it a try.
Oh
man.
gosh, instant link.
You're never going back.
Right, before you send even your ArtStation link or any of that over, I want the steak link first.
Okay.
That's the priority number one here on this podcast. Right, first app you open in the morning.
Oh, Notion.
Oh, wait, what's that?
That's my my app where I do all my tutorials and I write all my blogs and all that stuff.
Oh, awesome.
So it's like the first thing I open on my commute.
Right, perfect.
So I always open it because the offline mode in it is currently pretty terrible. Okay. So you have to load the page first before I go on my commute.
Right. Awesome. I'll have to check that out. I've never heard of that one.
I can send you a link after the steak one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. Keep rolling them in, man. Keep rolling them in. Because I've literally, when it comes to your blog, I just go to your ArtStation. Like I've literally just gone to your ArtStation that way. So right, this is another one. This is now this is a hard one.
Okay.
I hope it's a hard one because I need to challenge you at some point. Favorite career moment so far?
Probably the release of the first game, like Planet Coaster.
Right. Okay. Oh, awesome. Yeah.
And like still. It was such a weird moment because we were always building these modules, like these Lego pieces that other people can build their park with. Mm-hmm. And we never really had the time to do that, except for like a couple of moments in development.
Right.
But when the game got released, like it was the first time where I got to boot up the game and like actually start playing with the stuff that we built.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I think that's still my favorite time.
No, that's a great answer because. Like obviously I was like checking into the games that you made and stuff. Oh, by the way, I'm so jealous that you've worked on Jurassic World Evolution. I'm so jealous right now because like everyone knows on the podcast, so I'm like a dinosaur fanatic, and and like anything like sea life, etc. And I was like,
Yeah.
dude, this guy's worked on this game. I was like, oh, I want to work on that game so badly.
Oh yeah, we only got to build the buildings though.
Right,
So
okay.
no exciting dinosaur stuff. But
Oh, damn it. Not even crazy foliage?
no, not really.
Fair enough.
Not at that point.
Right, so, going back to the food one, because why not? Favorite fast food restaurant?
Oh God.
If there is one, maybe you don't like one, maybe there is.
That's an interesting one.
Out of all
Quick.
the things to be asked on the podcast, I bet you didn't expect this one today.
Yeah, it's probably Quick.
Oh, right.
It's a fast food restaurant in Belgium,
Right?
and it's like slowly being swallowed up by Burger King. But
Gosh darn it, Burger King.
yeah.
Quick, right. If I'm ever in Belgium, I'll be going there.
Oh yeah.
I'll make sure to check it out. Right. If you're not doing
Man,
your
I
job...
need,
Oh,
I
on
need
you go.
to keep track of my links.
Oh, just writing them down.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's no pressure, man. Do your thing. It's okay. As long as I get the steak one, we're fine. We're fine.
Yeah. Steak! Exclamation mark.
Highlight. I won't even put your name in the title. I'll just say best steak advice.
Oh God.
And then here, I'll probably get rolling in the views. Right. Next one. This actually might be a hard one. I don't know. If you're not doing your job as an artist, what would you be doing today?
That's an interesting one because I always enjoyed. I did like a student job at a chemical company,
Okay.
and I always liked working there
Right.
because the job was pretty. There was a lot of variation in the job, and like just a. Yeah, I do like working with my hands at points. So I guess that would be the thing, like something in like a chemical company,
Awesome.
like back in Antwerp.
Yeah. No, that's nice. I didn't expect that one. That's great. Because I was like for me when it came to like, growing up, there was always kind of two things that I always wanted to do. It was always like art and game or film, and then sport. So sport's always my thing. And
Okay.
I've literally just done sport my whole life. If I'm not doing art, it's literally just doing sport. But
Yeah.
no, that's a great answer. Right. So the last question. This is a fun one to finish the podcast. It's a bit of a random one, but I always like to ask it. Right. So if you could turn like roughly a laptop size object into a pet from the animal kingdom, what animal would you choose and why?
Wait, what?
I know. Oh yeah. See, you were like, boom. You did not expect that coming. You're like the weirdest question. So
Wait, a laptop sized
pet. So I'm trying to think. Like, so say I don't know. Say a pet that's roughly a foot tall, or like a really small, like almost like a puppy size. What animal in the animal kingdom would you choose and why? So what I said to the first guest I asked this to, I would say, I would go with like a pet shark and I'd put him in the aquarium. So like, what would you choose? What's like the dream pet you could have? Like, somebody's actually said, I know dragon's not a part of the animal kingdom, but I was like, screw it, you can go with that. So if you want to choose anything that could be your pet, what would you go with and why?
Oh man, there's so many choice.
The pressure's on.
This is a good one.
I finally put you on the spot.
Yeah, and it's not related to environment art at all. So
I know. It's like, gosh darn it. You could select an obvious one if you just want it, or you could just pass it. It's not a problem.
No, there's so many options. Like maybe like I don't know, a pet whale or something.
Oh right, okay, we've not had that one yet.
Something that's really abnormal to be that kind of size, like
Yeah.
and just put them in an aquarium.
That'd be sick. You can have like your little like Pinocchio scene.
Yeah.
You're sorted, man. You're ready. Because some of the guests, one of the interesting ones was a parrot, and I was like, damn it, that's actually a pretty cool choice. Just like teach them how to talk.
Oh God, yeah. Let them do the shopping.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Oh, no worries, man. It was my pleasure too. Thanks for inviting me.
No, anytime. It's always awesome talking to guests and hearing your story and your perspective on student education. And if you ever want to come on the show once again, man, you're more than welcome to. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Oh, yeah. That sounds good.
Perfect. And once again, folks, everyone who's tuning in, make sure to check out his work and give him a follow. And everyone who's tuning in, make sure to select the subscribe button